I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, July 25th, 2014. Wars and rumors of wars. I want to tie all of this together for you because I think we're being set up for some sort of financial and real war on an east-west basis. Now let's start with Ukraine. There are now new allegations from the U.S. State Department that Russia is firing from the Russian side of the border into Ukraine, hitting Ukraine army positions with artillery. That's right. The allegations from the U.S. State Department, Russia is now actively shooting from its side of the border into Ukraine. That is a definite ratcheting up of this crisis. Add that to the Malaysian airline flight 17 being shot down, no matter who you think shot it down. And this is escalating and heading towards real war. On top of that, you have the Ukrainian government that's falling apart. A couple of parties just called it quit. The Prime Minister, Yatsenyuk, he stepped down. The President, Poroshenko, he's still there. But the country, Ukraine, is suffering huge financial problems. They're insolvent. I mean, they're worried about getting diesel to run their tanks and armored vehicles. And, of course, they're not getting the sweet deal that they used to get from Russia, being they, want to be cut off from them, so the Russians are cutting them off. This is spinning out of control, and the next step is more sanctions. The U.S. already put more sanctions, weak as they are. They're like feather sanctions. We're trying to talk the EU into more sanctions, and they did. Even Canada stepped up with some sanctions against the Russian bank. But still, we're calling for more and more sanctions. And, when you start financial war on somebody, and these sanctions, as small as they are with, in Europe, these sanctions with Germany are already hitting Germany's economy. Germany doesn't want these sanctions. They don't. I don't think France does. I don't think the UK does. I think their economies are in big trouble. They're teetering on, crashing. And this is not going to help them get better. Sanctions, financial war, trade wars. And trade wars and financial wars lead to real wars. Next up now, there are massive protests in the West Bank. Tens of thousands of Palestinians are protesting. What are they protesting? Israel's and Hamas war. Israel's action invading Gaza, where hundreds of people have been killed, thousands have been injured. It's an ugly battle back and forth with Hamas still firing rockets into Israel. Israel, troops inside of Gaza trying to knock out their rockets and their way to have war, and also knock out tunnels. Extensive, complicated tunnel system under much of Gaza going into Israel. That's what the Israelis say. John Kerry's in the Middle East trying to get a ceasefire, not even a peace deal, just a ceasefire. Israel's going to say that, hey, they got to stop firing rockets. We're going to have to blow up this tunnel system. We want to demilitarize Gaza. Well, they're not going to. Gaza's going to say, no, you can't take our weapons. And we want you to open up our ports, and we'll open up our borders, and we want to be more free to come and go as we want, and import and export whatever we want. Well, if they were able to get all these arms and rockets into Gaza, with the borders closed, what would they bring in if the borders were open? And think about, Hamas is holding off the Israeli Defense Forces. I think they'll ultimately lose. They don't have air power and tanks and things like that. Hamas is holding off the Israeli Defense Forces. How heavily armed do you have to be to do that? They're doing it. This is ugly. And I think that this is getting worse already. Now you have the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, and he says, here's the solution. Israel must be destroyed. That's what he said this week. The supreme leader of Iran. Israel must be destroyed. And he also went on to say, the West Bank needs to be armed just like Gaza. Well, that's going to settle things down. So I think the way it is now, it's gone so far out of control. that neither side wants a ceasefire. Neither side is going to accept the other's terms and conditions. It's going to go to the bloody, bitter, and in some areas of the world, Israel's taken a huge black eye in the PR front. I mean, there's big, massive protests in France. There's massive protests in the UK. You have the supreme leader in Iran saying Israel must be destroyed. Protests in the West Bank. This is, I don't see any. I think the road to peace has been hit with an avalanche in Israel. It's blocked. They can't even get a ceasefire. They're not going to get a peace agreement. I think this gets far, far worse. Lots more bloodshed. It spreads all around Israel before it gets any better. Far worse. And then there's the Islamic State. You didn't hear a lot about that. You're talking about, ISIS or ISIL or ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, the Islamic State, the Caliphate. They have erased, for all intents and purposes, the border between Syria and Iraq. Eastern Syria, northwestern Iraq, that border, poof, gone. They're in control of it. The Islamic State now controls 35% of Syria. They control almost 100% of Syria's oil and natural gas fields. You didn't hear about that at all. That's a huge development. The Islamic State controls probably at least half of Iraq. And now Iraq, a country we spent a lot of blood and treasure, trillions of dollars, almost 5,000 lives lost, thousands and thousands of injured vets. And we pulled out and left a vacuum. And now Iraq has been asking for a year, we find out now, for the America to help them, to do drone strikes, to have air support, air cover, to go out there and break that up out there in western Iraq. No. And they make Al-Qaeda look tame. They're executing, crucifying Al-Qaeda members who aren't, radical enough. They're crucifying Christians. Thousands and thousands of Christians are moving out of certain cities in Iraq because of the Islamic State. They're just telling them to get out. Christianity predates any Islamic religion in some of those areas. And even with Saddam Hussein, they were allowed to stay and thrive. Saddam Hussein looks like a Boy Scout compared to the Islamic State. And now Iraq and the leaders of Iraq are saying, listen, America, if you don't help us, we're going to find somebody who will. Can you say Russia? Can you say China? One of those countries, if not both of those countries, because they are allies, is going to come in and fill that void. Meanwhile, the president is on vacation and getting ready to go for a 16-day vacation in Martha's Vineyard. That makes sense. No urgency. No sense of urgency whatsoever. Even with the borders crisis, which I'm going to get to in a minute, is unbelievable. Now there's new news in the IRS scandal. And listen, I am a journalist. I am a guy that came up, through mainstream media. And listen, I don't want the Republicans, and I don't want I don't want either party. I don't want anybody using the IRS to thwart their political rivals. And that's exactly what happened. That's felonies. Those are felonies, and it's unconstitutional. And we were told by the head of the IRS, the head now, John Koskinen, who said that, several weeks ago, there's no emails. The hard drives crashed. Other hard drives have crashed. They're all destroyed. There's no backup. There's no emails. It's all gone. Can't get them. Well, investigators went in and started talking to the tech guys, and the tech guys probably said, hey, whoa, hold on a minute. That's a federal law that we have to keep these records, and we're not going to go to jail. No, so it's backed up. We have the backup. They have the backup. They have the emails. They have Lois Lerner's hard drive. It wasn't destroyed. It was scratched. They can recover the emails. And if they can recover the emails, my hunch is somebody's going to jail. This is felony, unconstitutional activity. This makes what Richard Nixon did with the Watergate break-in look like a schoolyard prank. This is unbelievable and has no place in a constitutional republic, in a democracy. No place, none. This is unbelievable. And, the president was out on the West Coast saying that, there's gridlock and there's phony scandals. Excuse me, Mr. President, which are the phony scandals? Benghazi, the IRS scandal, the spying, NSA spying, the spying on reporters, the Veterans Administration, and hundreds of vets dying while they're waiting. Which one of those is the phony one? Or which ones are the phony ones? This is unconstitutional First Amendment violations. It is felony crime, and I suspect somebody's going to jail, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lois Lerner would throw off her use of the Fifth Amendment and say, hey, I'm ready to cut a deal. I want some immunity. Because if not, I think she's going to jail. And if she rolls over, somebody else is going to go to jail. I don't know who, but somebody. Texas Governor Rick Perry is sending 1,000 of his Texas National Guard to the Mexican border. Yes, somebody's doing something to seal the border. I've been telling you, listen, if they wanted to seal the border, they could, and Obama could, and he could get his immigration reform actually to make what's illegal legal, that's what they call it, reform. But nobody wants to do that. So Perry says, hey, it's gotten so bad that Texas citizens are at such risk with, MS-13 and its flood of immigrants and the cost it's going to be, and also reports of other foreign nationals like Pakistanis and other groups that are coming in that could be terrorists that have no business on the border. There's no Muslim country South America or in Central America, and he's working on the border, and that's going to send the biggest message yet to people in Central America, where this contrived humanitarian crisis, and yes, I said contrived humanitarian crisis. At the very least, the president's policies caused this because they think they're getting amnesty when there is no real amnesty. Mark Rubio, senator from Florida, said, well, in effect, they are getting amnesty because nobody's going to send them home. So you need to stop them at the border, but there's total gridlock in Washington, D.C. They want to change the law that has, there's a special exemption for Central American children where they can turn them around and send them back, and that's what needs to happen. I mean, there are counties and cities that have already gotten some of these people that are being, their budgets are being stretched to the max. One county here in North Carolina, Brunswick County, came up with a resolution saying, we don't want these kids here. We can't afford it. We cannot afford having thousands, hundreds, thousands of kids that we have to take care of. Taxpayers have to take care of it. I mean, their problems become our problems. We can't take every kid in the world that has a problem. We wouldn't have a country anymore. And the presidents of Guatemala and Honduras say, oh, it's our fault. Well, maybe we should cut off aid to Guatemala and Honduras and see if they can stop the flow from their borders right there. I bet you they would. But anyway, Governor Perry has sent 1,000 troops, and I wish Governor Perry all the luck in the world to seal at least that part of the border, which seems to be one of the most, the stopping point for coming up from Central America into the Texas, Rio Grande Valley. So I wish him luck, and I think, now President Obama has sent, Homeland Security. Homeland Security is just now going down to look at it? It's unbelievable. They're just now going to go down to look at it after all the press and all the problems? I mean, you got to wonder if either somebody is totally incompetent or they want this chaos to happen. You got to wonder. Finally, someone wrote me this week and was talking about, it was pretty long, I'm going to paraphrase it, talking about how, the powers that be use fear to control people. I don't want people to be fearful. I want people to be informed. So I'm going to change up my tagline a little bit. I'll tell you what it is in just a second. Before I do that, though, I wanted to tell you that I thank everybody for coming on and commenting. I learn a lot from the commenters. Thank people for using the donations button. I really appreciate that. Now my tagline, a little more about that. There's a phrase in the Bible that says, fear not. It's a phrase that's used, according to my preacher, 365 times. Fear not. 365 times. There's a fear not for every day of the week, not a coincidence. Fear not. And I don't want people to be fearful. I want them to be informed. So with that, I say thank you very much for supporting USA Watchdog. I'm Greg Hunter. Have a nice weekend. Fear not.